Admiral Zexthul sat in the detention cell aboard the USS Vengeance, his forearms chained to prevent any escape attempts. The proud alien commander who had ruled star systems now looked small and defeated. His gray skin had turned pale, and his orange eyes no longer burned with arrogance. Captain Jake Morrison entered the cell accompanied by Dr. Helen Rogers and Commander Ryan Brooks. The alien admiral looked up at them with a mixture of hatred and confusion. "How?" Zexthul asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How did you defeat the greatest fleet in Kethvar history? Your species should not possess such capabilities." Jake pulled up a chair and sat down across from the alien. "Admiral, your empire made the same mistake that has destroyed many civilizations throughout history. You became too comfortable with being the strongest. You stopped learning, stopped growing, stopped adapting." Dr. Rogers activated a holographic display showing Earth's timeline. "Admiral, human civilization began over 6,000 years ago. We've been building cities, developing technology, and fighting wars for millennia. Your sensors only detected our radio signals from 150 years ago because that's when we chose to start broadcasting them." Zexthul stared at the display in shock. 6,000 years? But our long-range scans showed no signs of advanced civilization before your radio emissions. "Because we didn't want you to see them," Commander Brooks explained. "By the time your empire started watching Earth, we had already developed stealth technology advanced enough to hide our true progress. We've been aware of alien civilizations for decades, and we've been preparing." Jake stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, he could see the remains of the Kethvar fleet drifting through space. Rescue ships were collecting survivors from the disabled alien vessels, while human medical teams provided aid to wounded prisoners. "Admiral, can I ask you something?" Jake said. "When was the last time your empire faced real resistance from a species you considered primitive?" Zexthul thought for a long moment. Not for over 10,000 years. Every world we encountered either surrendered immediately or fell within days. That was your weakness, Dr. Rogers said. You became so used to easy victories that you forgot how to fight a real war. Your tactics, your weapons, even your ship designs, they're all based on fighting enemies who can't fight back effectively. Jake returned to his chair. Humanity never had that luxury. We've been fighting each other for our entire history. Every generation faced new challenges, new enemies, new problems to solve. We had to keep getting better just to survive. The alien admiral's shoulders slumped in defeat. Your weapons, they were unlike anything in our databases. How did you develop such technology? Commander Brooks smiled. Necessity. When you're not the strongest species in the galaxy, you have to be the smartest. Our quantum disruptors were developed to penetrate shields exactly like yours. Our temporal mines were designed to trap larger, slower vessels. Every system on our ships was built to fight enemies who thought they were superior. But why? Zexthul asked. Why hide your capabilities? You could have demanded respect from the beginning. Jake leaned forward. Because we wanted to understand you first. We needed to know what kind of species we were dealing with. Were you explorers, traders, conquerors? Your actions during the occupation told us everything we needed to know. Dr. Rogers pulled up another display showing intercepted Kethvar communications. Your people called us pet humans in your reports. You planned to use our population as manual labor. You saw us as resources to be harvested, not as beings with rights and dignity. That is how the Empire has always operated, Zexthul admitted. Younger species exist to serve the older ones. It is the natural order. No, Jake said firmly. That's the order you created because you had the power to enforce it. But power without wisdom leads to weakness. You stopped growing because you didn't need to grow. You stopped learning because you thought you knew everything. Commander Brooks activated the communication system. Admiral, I want you to listen to something. The speakers crackled to life with voices speaking in the Kethvar language. It was a transmission from the alien homeworlds, and Zexthul's eyes widened as he heard the words. That's Governor Veltar reporting our defeat to the High Command, Brooks translated. He's telling them that the humans possess technology beyond Kethvar understanding. 3 more governors from other sectors are reporting similar incidents. It seems word of our capabilities has spread. Jake watched as understanding dawned in the alien's eyes. Your empire is learning that humanity isn't the only species that's been hiding their true strength. Other civilizations you thought were conquered are starting to resist. The Zalari Rebellion in Sector 7, Zexthul whispered. The Thraxian Uprising in Sector 12. We thought they were isolated incidents. They were waiting, Dr. Rogers explained, waiting for someone to prove that the Kethvar Empire could be defeated. We've just given hope to every oppressed world in your territory. The door to the detention cell opened, and President Lisa Carter entered with Fleet Admiral Kevin Walsh. The alien admiral tried to stand, but his chains prevented it. Admiral Zexthul, President Carter said, your empire has a choice to make. You can continue trying to rule through fear and force, or you can learn to coexist with other species as equals. Admiral Walsh placed a datapad on the table. We're prepared to offer terms for peace, complete withdrawal from all occupied worlds, recognition of the sovereignty of independent species, and most importantly, an end to your policy of forced subjugation. Zexthul looked at the terms with disbelief. You're offering to spare the Empire? After what we did to your world? Jake nodded. Admiral, we could destroy your remaining fleet and invade your homeworlds. Our technology gives us that capability. But that would make us exactly like you, conquerors, who rule through strength alone. President Carter sat down across from the alien. We believe that every species has something valuable to contribute to the galaxy, even yours, the Kethvar. Empire has knowledge of star systems, alien cultures, and historical events that could benefit everyone, but only if you're willing to share instead of dominate. What guarantee do we have that you won't simply become the new oppressors? Zexthul asked. Dr. Rogers smiled. Because we're not interested in ruling other species. We want to explore the galaxy, learn from other cultures, and build something better than what existed before. We want cooperation, not conquest. Jake stood up and moved toward the door. Admiral, your people have a saying. The strong rule, the weak serve. But humanity has learned something different. The wise prosper, the foolish fall. Your empire fell not because you were weak, but because you stopped being wise. Admiral Walsh picked up the datapad. You have 72 hours to consider our terms. We suggest you recommend acceptance to your high command. The alternative is watching your empire crumble as every oppressed world rises up to claim their freedom. As they prepared to leave, Zexthul called out, Captain Morrison, how long have you been preparing for this conflict? Jake paused at the door. Admiral, we've been preparing for this conflict since the day we first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Every human who ever dreamed of exploring space, every scientist who pushed the boundaries of knowledge, every engineer who built something impossible, they were all preparing for the day when we would meet other species among the stars. He looked back at the defeated alien commander. The difference between your empire and humanity is simple. You prepared for conquest. We prepared for contact. And when the time came to prove which approach was stronger, the galaxy chose cooperation over domination. 6 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the USS Vengeance as it led a joint exploration fleet toward the Andromeda Galaxy. The fleet included ships from 12 different species, including reformed Kethvar vessels flying under new flags of cooperation. The galaxy had changed. The Kethvar Empire had accepted the peace terms and was slowly transforming from a military dictatorship into a scientific republic. Former slave worlds were rebuilding as independent nations, and humanity had taken its place not as conquerors, but as the species that had shown everyone a better way to reach for the stars. Jake smiled as he watched the stars ahead. Humanities. Children had indeed grown up, but they had grown up to be healers and explorers, not destroyers. And that, he realized, was the greatest victory of all. 3 days after the USS Vengeance's victory, long-range sensors detected the largest alien fleet anyone had ever seen. Admiral Zexathul was coming with 230 warships, enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. The massive armada stretched across space like a metal storm cloud, moving toward Earth with deadly purpose. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the main command center beneath New York City, watching the enemy fleet approach on the giant display screens. Fleet Admiral Kevin Walsh paced back and forth behind him, studying tactical reports from across the solar system. "Admiral, all hidden facilities are reporting ready," announced Colonel Matt Hayes from his coordination station. "The disguised shipyards are prepared to reveal themselves on your command." Admiral Walsh nodded grimly. "How long until the alien fleet reaches Earth?" 18 hours at their current speed," replied Major Sandra Lewis, who commanded the first squadron of hidden destroyers. "They're not trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming." Jake looked at the tactical display showing Zexthul's formation. The alien ships were arranged in a traditional attack pattern, with the largest dreadnoughts in the center and smaller vessels forming protective wings on either side. It was an impressive sight, but also predictable. "They're using the same battle formation their empire has used for thousands of years," observed Dr. Helen Rogers, who had been studying alien military tactics. "No innovation, no adaptation to new threats." Commander Ryan Brooks activated a communication link to the hidden bases throughout the solar system. "All stations, this is Earth Command. Operation Masquerade Final Phase is now active. Drop all concealment and prepare for combat." Across the solar system, humanity's greatest deception began to unravel. The asteroid mining facility near Jupiter suddenly reconfigured itself, massive sections sliding apart to reveal the sleek hulls of 30 human destroyers. What the aliens had thought was a simple rock processing plant was actually the largest shipyard in human space. Near Mars, a communications satellite array that had been broadcasting weather reports for months suddenly stopped transmitting. Instead, the individual satellites separated and revealed themselves as heavily armed defense platforms, bristling with quantum torpedoes and particle beam cannons. On the dark side of Earth's moon, an entire mountain peak split open like a flower. From inside emerged the crown jewel of human engineering, the UES Liberator, a battleship twice the size of the USS Vengeance and equipped with enough firepower to fight an entire alien squadron. "Sir, all hidden assets are now active," reported Major Lewis. "Total combat strength, 62 warships, 48 defense platforms, and 12 mobile command bases." Admiral Walsh smiled for the first time in days. "Outstanding, Captain." "Morrison, take the USS Vengeance to the front lines. You've already proven these aliens can be beaten. Now help us show them how badly they've underestimated humanity." Jake saluted and headed for the transport that would take him back to his ship. As he walked through the corridors, he passed hundreds of military personnel preparing for the largest space battle in human history. Everyone knew that if they lost, Earth would be destroyed, but nobody looked afraid. They looked determined. Back on the bridge of the USS Vengeance, Jake found his crew making final preparations. Lieutenant Amy Collins was coordinating with the other human ships, while Commander Lisa Green ran tactical simulations on the approaching alien fleet. "Status report," Jake requested. "All systems green, sir," reported Chief Engineer Bob Turner. "Quantum drive charged, adaptive armor configured for combat, and all weapons loaded with our latest ammunition types." Commander Green looked up from her display. "Sir, I've been analyzing the alien formation. They're concentrating their heaviest ships in the center, probably planning to punch through our defenses with brute force." Jake studied the tactical screen. "What do you recommend?" "Swarm tactics, sir. Instead of meeting them head-on, we use our superior speed and maneuverability to attack from multiple directions. Confuse them, separate their ships, and defeat them piece by piece. Excellent thinking. Coordinate with the other squadron leaders. On the main display, Admiral Zexthul's image appeared. The gray-skinned alien looked even more frightening than before, his orange eyes burning with rage. "Humans of Earth, you have insulted the Kethvar Empire for the last time. Surrender immediately or we will turn your planet into cosmic dust." Admiral Walsh's voice came through the communication system from Earth Command. "Admiral Zexthul, this is Fleet Admiral Kevin Walsh of the Earth Defense Force. Your empire made a mistake when you assumed we were primitive children. Now you're about to pay for that mistake." The alien admiral laughed, a sound like breaking stone. "You face 200 warships with your handful of metal toys. Even if your weapons are slightly better than we expected, you cannot possibly defeat us through numbers alone." "You're right about one thing," Admiral Walsh replied. "We can't match your numbers. But we don't need to. We just need to be smarter than you." The transmission ended, and the battle began. Admiral Zexthul's fleet spread out as it approached Earth, trying to surround the planet and prevent any human ships from escaping. But instead of waiting to be surrounded, the human fleet struck first. Major Lewis led the first attack with her destroyer squadron. 12 human ships appeared from behind Jupiter's moons, moving at speeds the aliens hadn't expected. They launched quantum torpedoes at the alien fleet's left wing, destroying 6 warships before the Kethvar could react. The aliens tried to turn their formation to respond to the attack, but that's when the second wave hit. Captain Morrison brought the USS Vengeance and 8 other ships out of the asteroid belt, striking the alien right wing with coordinated precision. "Direct hits on 4 enemy dreadnoughts," reported Lieutenant Collins. "Their shields are down and they're losing power." But the real surprise came when the hidden defense platforms around Earth suddenly activated. What the aliens had thought were communication satellites opened fire with massive particle beams, creating a deadly crossfire that caught the alien. Center formation completely off guard. Admiral Zexthul's flagship staggered under multiple hits. "Impossible! Where did these weapons come from? Our sensors showed only primitive installations around your planet." Dr. Rogers appeared on the communication channel. "Admiral, you've been seeing what we wanted you to see. Those primitive installations are actually the most advanced defense network in this part of the galaxy. Your empire has been fighting younger species for so long that you forgot how to recognize real threats." The battle continued for 3 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The human ships moved like a pack of wolves, coordinating their attacks through quantum communication systems that the aliens couldn't intercept or jam. Every time the Kethvar tried to form a defensive line, human squadrons would appear from unexpected directions and tear it apart. Colonel Hayes coordinated the overall strategy from Earth Command, directing different squadrons to attack specific targets. Vengeance Squadron, hit the flagship's engine section. Lewis Squadron, take out those plasma cannon platforms. Defense Grid, concentrate fire on the command ships. The aliens fought bravely, but their tactics hadn't changed in millennia. They expected to face an enemy that would meet them in traditional ship-to-ship combat. Instead, they faced an opponent that used speed, coordination, and advanced technology to turn their own strength against them. By the end of the battle, over half of Admiral Zexthul's fleet was destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships were retreating toward the edge of the solar system, their formations broken and their confidence shattered. Jake watched the alien flagship limping away, its hull scarred by quantum torpedo impacts. Soon, Admiral Zexthul would be a prisoner aboard the USS Vengeance, and the Kethvar Empire would have to accept that their 50,000 years of dominance were coming to an end. The humans had won not through superior numbers or larger ships, but through something the aliens had lost long ago: the ability to think, adapt, and fight as a unified force. Earth's children had grown up to become the galaxy's new apex predators. The day of the surrender ceremony arrived with clear skies over Earth. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance as his ship approached the massive alien space station. Around them, 12 Kethvar warships had formed a circle, their weapons pointed inward like the petals of a deadly flower. "Sir, incoming transmission from Governor Veltar," reported Lieutenant Amy Collins. Jake straightened his uniform. "Put him on screen." The blue-skinned alien appeared on the main display, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Captain Morrison, you have done well to bring your vessel to us without resistance. Today marks an important step in your species' education. We will study your primitive ship and teach you how real warriors build their weapons." "We are honored by your attention, Governor," Jake replied, keeping his voice humble. Veltar gestured to the warships surrounding them. "These 12 vessels represent a tiny fraction of our power. Each one could destroy your entire planet. Remember this as we examine your technology." The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his crew. Commander Lisa Green stood at the tactical station, her hand resting near the weapon controls. Chief Engineer Bob Turner monitored the power systems from his console. Lieutenant Collins had her fingers ready over the communication array. "All stations report ready, sir," Commander Green said quietly. Jake nodded and activated the ship's internal communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. In 60 seconds, we stop pretending to be weak. Remember your training. Remember who we are. Earth is counting on us." Through the viewports, Jake could see the alien escort ships moving closer. Their hulls were covered with weapon ports and shield generators. They looked like metal mountains floating in space, each one 10 times larger than the USS Vengeance. "Sir, the aliens are requesting that we power down our engines and prepare to be boarded," Lieutenant Collins reported. Jake smiled. "Tell them we're ready for inspection." He walked to the center of the bridge and placed his hand on a red panel that had been hidden beneath a false cover. "Authorization Morrison Alpha 77. Computer, drop all stealth systems and activate combat configuration." The USS Vengeance began to change. What had looked like a simple metal hull started shifting and moving. Armor plates slid apart to reveal weapon ports that had been invisible moments before. The ship's surface became covered with sensors and targeting systems that gleamed in the starlight. On the alien ships, alarms began blaring. Jake could imagine the confusion and panic as their sensors suddenly detected energy signatures they had never seen before. "Sir, Governor Veltar is hailing us again," Lieutenant Collins announced. "He sounds upset." "Put him through." The alien governor's face appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of shock and rage. "What is this? What have you done to your ship?" Jake kept his voice calm and polite. "Governor, you said you wanted to study our most advanced technology. This is the USS Vengeance as she really is. Not a primitive patrol vessel, but one of Earth's warships." "Impossible," Veltar snarled. "Your species is barely 150 years old. You cannot possess such technology." Dr. Helen Rogers, the ship's chief scientist, stepped forward. "Governor, human civilization is thousands of years old. You only detected our radio signals from 150 years ago, but we've been building, learning, and advancing for millennia. We've just been hiding our progress from species like yours." The alien ships began moving closer, their weapons charging with bright energy. Jake could see plasma cannons swiveling to target the USS Vengeance. "Commander Green, are you ready?" Jake asked. "All weapons charged and locked on target, sir. Quantum shields at maximum power." Jake took a deep breath. "Governor Veltar, I recommend you order your ships to withdraw. This doesn't have to become violent." The alien's 4 eyes burned with fury. "You dare threaten the Kethvar Empire? We have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. Destroy this insect ship immediately." The alien warships opened fire together. 12 streams of plasma energy lanced through space toward the USS Vengeance. The bridge lights dimmed as the quantum shields absorbed the massive energy barrage. "Shields holding at 98%, reported Chief Turner. "Their weapons can't penetrate our defenses." Jake felt a surge of pride in human engineering. "Return fire. Show them what real weapons look like." The USS Vengeance fired its quantum disruptors. The invisible energy beams passed through the alien shields like they weren't there and struck the warship hulls directly. 3 alien vessels immediately lost power, their systems shutting down as the quantum energy disrupted their electrical networks. How? Governor Veltar gasped. How are your weapons penetrating our shields? Dr. Rogers smiled. Your shields deflect plasma and particle beams. Our disruptors work by phase shifting into quantum dimensions that your technology cannot detect or defend against. The remaining alien ships tried to retreat, but Jake wasn't finished. Deploy temporal mines, he ordered. Lieutenant Collins pressed a series of controls, and small devices launched from the USS Vengeance toward the fleeing warships. When the mines detonated, they created bubbles of altered time around the alien vessels. Inside these bubbles, everything moved incredibly slowly. Sir, 9 enemy ships are trapped in temporal fields, Commander Green reported. They're moving at approximately 1% normal speed. Jake watched as the mighty HFY warships drifted helplessly through space, their crews frozen in slow motion. In less than 10 minutes, the USS Vengeance had defeated 12 ships, that each outweighed her by a factor of 10. Governor Veltar's ship was one of the few still moving normally. The alien governor stared at Jake through the view screen, his confidence completely shattered. This is impossible. Young species do not possess such capabilities. Governor, the problem with your empire is that you've become too comfortable, Jake explained. You've spent so long conquering primitive worlds that you forgot how to deal with equals. Humanity never stopped learning, never stopped growing. Chief, Engineer Turner brought up a display showing the alien technology they had captured and studied. Your weapons and shields use the same designs you had 1,000 years ago. You've become stagnant. Meanwhile, we've been advancing our science every single year. Dr. Rogers added, we studied your technology during the diplomatic meetings. Every system you showed us was based on principles our scientists had already surpassed. Your plasma weapons, your energy shields, your computer systems, they're all outdated by human standards. Governor Veltar's ship began backing away from the USS Vengeance. The Empire will not tolerate this insult. Admiral Zexthul commands over 200 warships. He will crush your pathetic world. Jake nodded calmly. Tell Admiral Zexthul he's welcome to try, but suggest that he brings more than 200 ships. He's going to need them. The alien governor's transmission cut off as his ship retreated toward the edge of the solar system. Around them, the other alien vessels remained trapped in their temporal fields, crews moving like statues in a museum. Sir, incoming message from Earth Defense Command, Lieutenant Collins reported. President Lisa Carter's face appeared on a smaller screen. Outstanding work, Captain Morrison. Phase 2 is now authorized. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has really been building all these years. Jake smiled as he looked out at the stars. The USS Vengeance had won the first battle, but the real war was just beginning. Soon, Admiral Zexthul would arrive with his massive fleet, expecting to crush a primitive world defended by simple rockets. Instead, he would face the full might of humanity's hidden armada. Ships that had been disguised as mining equipment and research stations would reveal themselves as the most advanced warships in the galaxy. The HFY Empire was about to learn that Earth's children had grown up to become something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. 3 months had passed since the HFY Empire established their protectorate over Earth. Governor Veltar had moved into a massive alien structure that appeared overnight in Earth's orbit, a space station the size of Manhattan that served as the center of alien operations. From there, he issued daily commands to the world's governments, treating human leaders like students who needed constant supervision. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of Earth Defense Command, carrying a data pad filled with intelligence reports. The aliens had made their biggest mistake by being too confident. They shared information freely because they believed humans were too primitive to understand or use it against them. "Captain Morrison, report to Conference Room 7, announced the intercom system. Jake entered the room to find President Lisa Carter, Commander Ryan Brooks, and Dr. Amanda Price waiting around a holographic display. The image showed the Kethvar fleet positions throughout the solar system. 12 massive warships had taken strategic positions around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. "What's our status, Captain?" President Carter asked. Jake activated his datapad and uploaded his latest findings. "The aliens are getting more demanding every week. Yesterday, they requested detailed maps of our ocean floors. They want to establish underwater mining operations to extract what they call primitive metals for their own use." Dr. Price leaned forward in her chair. "They still think our technology is centuries behind theirs. Governor Veltar actually laughed when I showed him our quantum computer designs. He said they looked like cute attempts at advanced mathematics from a young species." Commander Brooks pulled up another display showing alien communication intercepts. "We've been monitoring their private channels. They call us the pet humans in their reports back to the Empire. Admiral Zexathul told the Kethvar High Command that Earth will make an excellent source of manual labor once we're properly trained." Jake felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice calm. "What about their defenses? I've been running reconnaissance missions for weeks now." "Show us what you've found," President Carter said. Jake manipulated the holographic display, highlighting each alien ship. Their shields operate on rotating frequency patterns that change every 6 hours, but the patterns repeat exactly every third day. Their weapons have a 15-second charging cycle between maximum power shots. Most importantly, they only scan for threats using energy signatures they recognize. Dr. Price smiled. "Which means our stealth technology is completely invisible to them." "Exactly," Jake confirmed. "The USS Vengeance has passed within 1,000 meters of their patrol ships 12 times. They never detected us when our adaptive systems were active." Commander Brooks brought up a new image showing the hidden human facilities throughout the solar system. "Meanwhile, our real preparations are ahead of schedule. The construction yards behind Jupiter's moons have completed 8 new destroyers this month. The defense platforms disguised as communication satellites are fully operational." President Carter studied the display carefully. "How many ships can we deploy if this situation escalates?" 62 combat vessels plus orbital defense platforms," Brooks replied. "The aliens think they're guarding a planet with maybe 10 primitive rockets. They have no idea we can field a full battle fleet." Dr. Price activated another section of the display. "I've been studying their technology during the diplomatic meetings. Their weapons are powerful but inflexible. They haven't updated their designs in thousands of years. Our adaptive armor can reconfigure itself to deflect their specific energy types." Jake nodded. "I've noticed the same thing during patrols. Their ships are big and intimidating, but they move like ancient battleships. Our vessels are faster and more maneuverable." "There's something else," Dr. Price continued. "I've been analyzing their psychology through our interactions. The Kethvar are an old species, maybe too old. They've conquered so many younger civilizations that they've stopped innovating. They just use the same tactics that worked for them 50,000 years ago." Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker entered the room carrying a metal device that hummed with energy. "Sorry I'm late, I wanted to bring this." He placed the device on the table. "We've reverse-engineered one of their communication units. Turns out their advanced technology is based on principles our scientists abandoned 40 years ago." Jake picked up the device and examined it. "This looks like the old plasma relay systems we used before quantum communications." "Exactly," Parker confirmed. "They're still using brute force energy transmission instead of quantum entanglement. It's like discovering that your enemy is still using steam engines while you have fusion reactors." President Carter looked around the room at her advisors. "So we have superior technology, better tactics, and the element of surprise. The question is when to use these advantages." Commander Brooks pulled up a timeline on the display. Intelligence suggests the aliens are planning something big. We've intercepted communications about a compliance inspection scheduled for next month. They want to examine what they think are our most advanced military assets. The USS Vengeance, Jake said immediately. Correct, Brooks nodded. They've been watching your patrol missions and they think your ship represents the peak of human military technology. Governor Veltar has specifically requested that you bring the Vengeance to their space station for detailed study. Dr. Price laughed. They want to study one of our older ships and think they're getting access to our best secrets. Jake felt a plan forming in his mind. What if we give them what they want? Let them think they're about to examine our greatest achievement. Then show them how wrong they are. President Carter raised an eyebrow. Explain. The USS Vengeance has full adaptive systems and quantum weaponry, all hidden beneath stealth plating, Jake said. To their sensors, it looks like a simple metal ship with basic rockets. What if we let them get close enough to realize their mistake? Lieutenant Colonel Parker grinned. A demonstration of real human capabilities. The risk is enormous, Commander Brooks warned. If something goes wrong, Earth could face retaliation from the entire HFY fleet. President Carter was quiet for a long moment, studying the displays and considering the options. Finally, she looked at Jake. Captain Morrison, how confident are you in your ship and crew? Jake thought about his team. Lieutenant Amy Collins, who could operate 3 different weapon systems simultaneously. Commander Lisa Green, who had never lost a tactical simulation. Chief Engineer Bob Turner, who knew every bolt and circuit on the ship. They were the best Earth had to offer. We're ready, Madam President. The USS Vengeance can handle anything the aliens throw at us. Dr. Price leaned back in her chair. There's one more thing to consider. Our psychological profile suggests that the HFY have never faced real resistance from a species they considered primitive. A shock defeat might cause them to retreat and reconsider their entire approach. Commander Brooks nodded slowly. Or it might make them angry enough to call in their entire fleet. President Carter stood up, her decision made. We've been pretending to be weak children for 3 months. Maybe it's time to show the galaxy that humanity has grown up. She looked directly at Jake. Captain Morrison, accept their invitation. Take the USS Vengeance to their space station, but be ready to remind them that underestimating humans is a very dangerous mistake. Jake saluted. Yes, Madam President. The HFY Empire is about to learn that Earth's children bite back. As the meeting ended, Jake felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Soon, very soon, the aliens would discover that their pet humans were actually apex predators who had been hiding their fangs. The USS Vengeance would show them that human technology wasn't primitive at all. It was just better hidden than they could possibly imagine. 3 days later, Veltar stood in the main conference room of the Zenthari medical station, Sanctuary's Light. Word had spread quickly through the galaxy about the unknown aliens who had destroyed a Korthak raiding fleet without breaking a sweat. Now, representatives from 12 different civilizations had gathered to meet these mysterious humans. Captain Morrison sat at the conference table with his usual calm confidence. Dr. Chen and Lieutenant Rodriguez flanked him, both alert and ready. Veltar noticed that the humans were the only beings in the room who looked completely comfortable in the low-gravity environment. Ambassador Thys of the Ethereal Collective floated in her special containment suit, her gaseous form glowing, with soft patterns of light. She spoke first, her voice musical and formal. We welcome humanity to the galactic community. However, we must address concerns about your species' apparent tendency toward violence. Surely there could have been a peaceful solution to the Korthak situation. Morrison leaned back in his chair, the only person present who could sit normally, without floating away. With respect, Ambassador, we didn't start that fight. We finished it. Counselor Rixtal of the Trading Federation gestured with his 4 arms. But surely diplomacy could have worked. The Korthak, while aggressive, can be reasoned with if approached correctly. Dr. Chen activated a holographic display above the table. Numbers and statistics filled the air in glowing text. According to our research, the Korthak have conducted 347 raids on civilian vessels in the past 2 years. In 89% of cases where victims tried to negotiate, the crews were taken as slaves. In the remaining 11%, they were killed immediately. Statistics can be misleading, Ambassador Theiss suggested gently. Context matters in diplomatic situations. Does it? Morrison's voice carried a dangerous edge that made several delegates shift nervously. How many of your people have tried negotiating with Korthak raiders, Ambassador? How many survived to tell you about the context? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Veltar noticed that none of the galactic representatives met Morrison's eyes. Lieutenant Rodriguez activated another display. Red markers appeared on a star map showing recent distress calls. In the past month alone, we've intercepted 17 emergency transmissions in this sector. Korthak raiders, Selvari pirates, Bruthan slavers. How many ships responded to those calls? The silence stretched longer. Finally, Councillor Rixtal spoke quietly. The Galactic Council operates under strict non-interference policies. We cannot simply attack other species without proper authorization and investigation. Cannot what? Morrison stood slowly, and suddenly the room felt smaller and more dangerous. Several delegates moved back from the table. Cannot help people who are being murdered and enslaved? Cannot act because it might upset your careful political balance? Representative Colvin of the Mineral Rights Consortium tried to explain. Captain Morrison, you must understand that interstellar relations are complex. We have treaties and agreements that must be considered. Sometimes difficult decisions must be made for the greater good. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. Let me tell you about the greater good, Representative. On Earth, we have a saying, evil wins when good people do nothing. Your council has turned doing nothing into an art form. Dr. Chen pulled up more data. We've reviewed your historical records. In the past century, 47 species have gone extinct due to raids, wars, and systematic extermination. The Council passed 127 resolutions condemning these actions. Resolutions, Rodriguez repeated. Strongly worded letters. Formal protests. Meanwhile, entire civilizations were wiped out while you debated proper procedures. We are a diplomatic body, Councillor Rixtal protested. We exist to prevent conflicts through peaceful means. You're enablers, Morrison said bluntly. You've created a galaxy where predators can do whatever they want because everyone's too civilized to stop them. You've made evil safe and comfortable. Ambassador, this pulsed with agitated colors. Captain Morrison, surely you don't advocate abandoning all diplomatic protocols. Without rules and procedures, there would be chaos. Would there? Morrison asked. Because from where I sit, your rules and procedures have already created chaos. The only difference is that the victims are too polite to complain about it. Veltar found himself speaking up. Captain Morrison has a point. 3 years ago, my science officer was captured by Korthak raiders. The Council passed resolutions demanding her return. They imposed sanctions. They authorized diplomatic pressure. His voice grew quiet and sad. She died in their slave pits, while the Council debated the ethics of a rescue mission. When I sent that distress call, I wasn't asking for diplomats or politicians. I was asking for someone who would act. Representative Colvin tried a different approach. But surely you understand that military action should be a last resort. There are always other options to consider. Are there? Rodriguez pulled up a new display showing recent pirate activity. These are attack patterns from the last 6 months. The raiders are getting bolder because they know no one will stop them. They're expanding into new territories because resistance is minimal. Your diplomatic approach isn't preventing violence, Dr. Chen added. It's enabling it. You've taught predators that there are no consequences for their actions. Morrison walked to the window and looked out at the stars. You want to know what humanity learned in our first year of space exploration? We discovered a Korthak slave ship carrying 200 prisoners from 6 different species. The ship's captain laughed when we demanded their release. He said no one in the galaxy had the courage to fight back. He turned to face the assembled delegates. He was wrong. We freed every prisoner and sent the slave ship home with a message: Earth remembers its enemies. And what was the result? Asked Ambassador Thiss nervously. Korthak raids in human space dropped to 0, Rodriguez said simply. Turns out bullies are cowards when they face real opposition. Counselor Rixtal made one last attempt at reason. Captain Morrison, what does humanity want from the galactic community? Surely we can find a peaceful solution that works for everyone. Morrison's smile was sharp as a knife blade. What we want is simple, Counselor. We want you to understand something very clearly. He looked around the room, meeting each representative's gaze directly. Humanity didn't ask to be the galaxy's police force. We didn't volunteer to be the ones who do the dirty work while everyone else debates ethics. But since that's apparently the job opening that's available, the silence in the room was complete. No one moved. No one breathed. We accept. Ambassador Thiss's form flickered with alarm. Captain, surely you're not suggesting that Earth intends to act unilaterally against species you deem threatening. I'm not suggesting anything, Ambassador. I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen. Morrison's voice was calm and certain. From now on, when peaceful people call for help, they're going to get it. When slavers and pirates attack civilians, they're going to face consequences. The Council will never approve such actions, Counselor Rixtal warned. Morrison laughed, but there was no humor in it. We're not asking for approval, Counselor. We're informing you of the new reality. Dr. Chen stood and gathered her data displays. Earth has identified 47 active pirate organizations, 23 slave trading networks, and 12 aggressive expansionist regimes. We'll be addressing these threats systematically. This could destabilize the entire galactic political structure, Representative Aude Colvin protested. Good, Rodriguez said as he followed Morrison toward the door. Your political structure has been protecting murderers and slavers for centuries. It's time for a change. As the humans prepared to leave, Veltar called out, Captain Morrison, what if the Council tries to stop you? Morrison paused at the doorway and looked back. His smile was cold and confident. They're welcome to try, Commander, but they should remember one thing. If 12 Korthak warships couldn't stop us, a bunch of politicians probably won't have much luck either. The door closed behind the humans, leaving the galactic delegates in stunned silence. Outside the windows, the Iron Wolf and 2 other human ships could be seen preparing to depart. For the first time in galactic history, someone had declared war on evil itself, and the most terrifying part was that they looked like they could win.